Let's bring in our good buddy from SNY, Bobby Ojeda. Bobby's down in Florida, and he's seen a lot of the Mets, and we want to ask him questions about it. Bobby, Michael, and Don, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How you doing?
We're doing all right, but not as well, I think, as Noah Syndergaard. Is he as good as we're reading?
I don't like to see people oversold, and I don't think they're ever overselling him. This guy is big. He's strong. He seems to have a very even keel. He doesn't seem to be letting this first big league camp get away from him. He's pitched well in front of the owners. He's pitched well in front of the manager. And that's a big test for these young guys. All of a sudden, he's not on field 7, and there's a couple goats and a tumbleweed watching him. He's in front of the brass, and he's dealing. So looks pretty good to me.
All right. Obviously, money is always an issue, no matter what organization with the Super 2 status that would be created had he stayed with this team at the start of the season. If he's ready to go, Bobby, do you think, I know it's not your money, but if it's up to you, would you start him in April with this team, or would you understand waiting?
I would understand waiting. It's two-sided, I think. One, would it be a publicity stunt, a ploy to force him into the big leagues if he's not quite ready? I think they would take heat for that. Could he potentially hurt himself? Yeah. I think if you look at it, just plain and simple, he's got about 117 innings or so in the minor leagues, AAA last year a little bit, I believe. No, AA. I don't have it in front of me. The experience is not there to where if he was to go down and maybe throw 10 games, and I mean deal like over the top, would you bring him then? Absolutely. I don't think there's no sense in waiting, but it's a double-edged sword right now. I think you can bring him or not if he continues doing what he's doing, but he's really only had minimal exposure at this point.
All right, now I've also heard from several people that saw him that Zack Wheeler actually looks better than he did last year. He's more confident. He seems like he knows he belongs. Is that what you sense when you watch him?
Absolutely. He's gone through the natural growing progression where you get up there and all of a sudden you are completely intimidated. You're pitching against guys you watch on TV. That's a big deal when you're a young guy. And he dealt with it good last year. He kind of came out of his delivery at times. He had that little issue with, I believe it was a shoulder, and that might have been overthrowing. Now he looks cool, calm, collected. I think he's throwing a little too hard this early in spring, but I can't relate to these guys who throw 95-plus anyway.
I always felt that Wheeler and Harvey kind of tried to one-up each other when they were both in the rotation last year. Does it take some pressure off of Wheeler that Harvey's not there, or does it add to it because there's going to be such a focus on him, especially if Syndergaard's not going to be there in the first half of the year?
I don't think it does either one. I think Wheeler's at a point where he's just trying to do his own thing. There's always a natural competition between pitching, guys on the pitching staff, starters in particular. I mean, we compete about everything in a good way. We're trying to one-up each other. That's one of the things that drives us. And it even reaches a point where, I want to know if I draw more people when I start or you do. That matters to me if there's, 38,000 or 12,000.
Wow, that is really being competitive. Now, another guy that I know you really, really like, because I've read quotes from you, but I want to hear it from your mouth. Why are you so high on Travis d'Arnaud?
You talk about somebody who's very quietly going about his business this spring. You got d'Arnaud. He looks settled. He looks comfortable. He fixed that over rotation of his bat. He had the barrel pointing directly at the pitcher last year while the ball was being delivered. He had no chance to catch up. And I've watched him hit, and I've watched a different swing. It's compact. It's got some strength behind it. It's not a lot of pop, but he's got strength behind it. He's using all the field. He's not forcing the ball all over the field. And I think Mike Piazza down here is going to lend a little more confidence to this kid because Mike likes what he sees, and he's one of the best catchers around that played, Mike Piazza. So that coupled with d'Arnaud is very comfortable with the pitchers here. He knows them. He knows their personalities, and there's that comfort level to where he knows he's got 12 or 13 pitchers. Each one is different, but now he's outside of himself a little bit. He's not worried so much about d'Arnaud. He's learning his guys a little bit better. I think that's going to make him even better behind the plate, but I love the swing. He's worked that swing out, and I expect good things from that kid this year. I really do.
All right, so much on the plate for Ike Davis. The poor season last year, on the verge of getting traded. Then he got upset the way it was perceived that he was blaming it all on injury when he said he didn't. What's the mind state of this kid right now, and what can we legitimately expect from first base from him this year?
Right now he's going about his business. That whole thing, it really was a miscommunication. It's not a big deal. Look, if you look at 100 guys on the field, 85 of them are banged up a little bit. They just are. Some will play through it. Some won't even mention it, and he didn't even mention it. So I kind of like guys who will try to soldier through an injury, and that's what he tried to do. It didn't work out. Now, as far as this year, he's really got to find his stroke. He's got to think. Counts. I think one of his biggest problems was hitting with two strikes. Nobody can hit. Even Don LaGreca cannot hit very well in the major leagues with two strikes. It's hard to do.
I'd guarantee that.
I think the concentration on his swing and the stance and the hitch and all these things can muddy the water. I think the reality is he's got to get pitches he can handle, and whether it's the first pitch, second pitch, third pitch, don't let it go by, because when he lets it go by, he's going to get the off-speed pitches. Why? Because, I'm a pitcher. I'm trying to get you out. If you can't hit the curveball, well, you're going to get the curveball. That's just the way it goes. And when are you going to get those off-speed pitches? Most likely when you got two strikes. And there's a lot of guys driving UPS trucks who couldn't hit the curveball with two strikes.